What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Wrestling Authority podcast. I am running freestyle by myself today. My co-host got lost under the dome, apparently, so he won't be here. But we have a lot of... Shout out to the previous podcast. We have a lot of wrestling stuff going on now. We are weeks away from SummerSlam, which is the second biggest event of the year in the wrestling world, next to WrestleMania. And there's a lot of interesting and cool matches on the card that are already setting up. It's happening on August 23rd in the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. So that's a big event. But before I get into that and the card and what might happen there, last night we had some sad news. Hot Rod Roddy Piper passed away. He's a legend. He's a legend in not only in the wrestling circles, but just he's been a actor. He's been doing some movies back in the day, but he was like one of the original bad guys in wrestling. He was huge in the 80s. He was Hulk Hogan's number one adversary, for those of you that don't know about it. They're the ones that kind of started it all, and they were the ones that really had that original feud that led to the first WrestleMania ever. Roddy Piper, for me personally, I think he was the greatest talker in wrestling history. He was the original great talker, a guy that didn't need a script to go out there, didn't need to be fed any lines or told what to do. He's just so original, had a great mind for the business, and a lot of wrestlers got influenced by him. So it was kind of shocking to hear that at 61, Hot Rod Roddy Piper passed away, cardiac arrest. And that seems to be the story a lot with a lot of these wrestlers, that they're passing away way too young. A few weeks ago, another wrestling legend, Dusty Rhodes, passed away too. So it's like a bad time in a wrestling community because two legends pass away in the span of a month, two Hall of Famers in the WWE. So yeah, Roddy Piper will definitely be remembered as an innovator, a guy that really built the gap and really a foundation for today's wrestlers with the way to talk and to have a character out there and to really kind of be yourself and be out there. And I think a lot of wrestlers learn from him, and it's just going to be really remembered as one of the all-time greats. And, you know, there's a tweet from Hulk Hogan saying that was his best friend, that he lost his best friend last night. And, yeah, and Roddy did battle cancer a couple years back. Actually, WWE, their training staff and medical staff discovered it with a physical, and he beat cancer, and now to pass away through a heart attack was pretty shocking. So rest in peace, Roddy Piper. Wrestling community is mourning him at this moment, and he brought a lot of great memories for everyone who enjoyed him. And back in the day, if you're a young fan, an old fan, he's been around for all these years. Now on to SummerSlam. SummerSlam coming up in a few weeks at Barclays Center. The main event is set. It is going to be Brock Lesnar, the UFC guy that really came back to the WWE a couple years ago, that dominated UFC, dominated the WWE, and now he's going to main event SummerSlam against the returning The Undertaker. And The Undertaker's been gone for a while. He's now a part-time wrestler. He wrestles pretty much one match a year. He does the WrestleMania, and that's his big moment, and then he disappears for another year. The guy's like in his 50s already, so you can't blame him that he can't do a full-time schedule. But Undertaker is coming back to face Lesnar after Lesnar beat his undefeated streak at WrestleMania, WrestleMania 30. It was the first time Undertaker had lost ever in his career. It was like a huge shock to the wrestling world to see The Undertaker lose in New Orleans to Brock Lesnar. And of all the guys, that was the guy that they deemed worthy of really taking away that streak, is that they called it, The Undertaker's streak. And now they're going to do the rematch. There was no rematch. They waited over a year to really do this, and now they're going to save it for SummerSlam. My thoughts on that, I kind of surprised that they're doing it this early and they're actually doing a rematch. I didn't expect to see The Undertaker back till at least WrestleMania time. And Brock Lesnar's a champion right now. He's been a champion a championship guy, and then he lost the titles to Seth Rollins, so that's been kind of going, sliding from one guy to another. But Seth Rollins currently champion, but Brock is really the guy. He lost a title, but he's still the top guy in the company. He's treated as a champion, so there's no doubt he is the number one guy right now with John Cena, who I'll get back to in a moment, might actually miss SummerSlam because he broke his nose. See, wrestling's real. It's not that all fake. But back to Undertaker and Brock Lesnar. That is going to be one heck of a match. I think Undertaker's really going to bring his A game. Even though he wrestles once a year, I think the last time that he wrestled Brock Lesnar, that was one of his best matches that he's ever put out, next to the Shawn Michaels WrestleMania matches. And those two guys are big dudes. We're talking about two guys that are nearly 7 feet tall going at it. Brock is probably like 6'6" or so, but he's just a beast of a guy. I mean, he's like a whale. So that's going to be one interesting matchup. It just, hopefully, for Undertaker's sake, Brock doesn't really go off course and off the script and actually throw some real punches, because if he does, Undertaker might not be waking up. He might be a dead man for sure after that one. So that's the big match. Seth Rollins, the current champion, the guy that's holding the title, but really, I mean, he's been just scheming his way through every victory. It's been what he's been doing. It's a good thing because he's an old school type of heel, a guy that really kind of cheats his way to win all the time and gets away, and he's been probably the best talker. And that's another guy probably that was influenced by Roddy Piper, I'm sure, was Seth Rollins, because Seth Rollins has really upped his game when it comes to promos and in-ring talking. So we're not sure who he's going to fight yet, especially now with Cena's nose being broken. But that is one thing to kind of look out for, to see what with Seth Rollins. Will he finally drop the title? He's had it since WrestleMania, so it's a while to hold on to it. Then we have the Wyatts versus Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose. Now, these two teams have feuded before, and it was probably one of the most exciting feuds between two factions that we've seen in years. It was abrupt. It didn't last long. They didn't really push it to the max like they could have with the feud. They really rushed it. But it's going to be really cool to see them go at it. Roman Reigns being a guy that the WWE really kind of wanted to establish as a franchise guy, He's probably going to be the guy that Brock Lesnar is going to pass off the reins to once he's done. But Roman Reigns has not been getting a good reaction from the crowd. It's been really a forced push for him, and people have just not accepted him. And the thing about today's wrestling fans is that you cannot shove and tell them who to root for. I think Daniel Bryan was a classic case of that people wanted their own guy, and the WWE didn't want him to be the guy, but the people would just rebel. The crowds would go crazy, and it forced and it changed storylines. So Daniel Bryan went from a guy that should have never been champion to becoming one of the most celebrated ones. And that's today's wrestling crowd. It's with the internet, everyone's kind of more, I'd say, educated when it comes to wrestling and what they want, and they feel like they have more control being online, tuning into podcasts like these, and voicing their opinion. And the WWE has to take notice, because when you have 20,000 people chanting for a guy that you don't really want to push, you're going to have to push him every week if you're hearing this chants. And that's what happened. So business has definitely changed. And in that sense, John Cena has been the guy for the past decade for the WWE. He's the guy that does all the charity work. He's the face of the company. But the fans just don't care for him, besides the kids and women. All the guys, they hate Cena. But he goes to Comic-Con a lot. Cena's, this year he's not going to be there, but there's going to be a lot of other wrestlers that are showing up at Wizard World. You're going to have Randy Orton, Undertaker, Sting, Paige, and Daniel Bryan. So they're going to have, I think, the most WWE wrestlers at this year's Wizard World, actually. So that's going to be something that's going to be cool. I'm sure Wizard World's one of those conventions that really kind of draws the WWE wrestlers too, and especially the Chicago one, because it's like the hottest town for wrestling is Chicago. It is. Every wrestler will say that on record, that Chicago is the best wrestling city in the country. Allstate Arena always sells out. It is like always packed and one of the loudest buildings that they ever perform in. So yeah, they're really always putting out the best shows in Chicago, and this year's Wizard World is going to be packed with a lot of wrestlers. So whoever's going there is going to get an opportunity. And speaking of Sting, Sting is a guy that, yeah. So I got to talk into you guys online. Sting is a guy that made his return recently to the WWE, and it's the first time he's been back since ever, because he's never been to the WWE before now. He's been a career guy at WCW, and that was huge for him to finally end his career coming to the WWE. As of right now, there's no plans for him to have a match at SummerSlam, but that could always change. Things change on a fly with the WWE. Just kind of like this podcast where I'm running solo right now, which is good. And so Sting could be another featured guy at SummerSlam. We'll see about that. They're probably setting up some storylines for him right now as we speak of. So SummerSlam is really going to be one of the big pay-per-views. They finally moved it from LA. It's been in LA since 2008 every year. It's the only pay-per-view that's been done consecutively in one state. So finally they're bringing it to Brooklyn, and that's going to be a different crowd. That New York crowd is pretty rough. So it's not an LA crowd, which is kind of laid back and you just roll with the punches. But the New York crowd's going to really ask for a top show, and they're going to get it from the looks of it. So that's going to be a big thing to check out. Then you have the Cena situation, which is he legitimately broke his nose. Not like he had a good nose to begin with, but he's going to have a better one apparently now after surgery. So Cena broke his nose on Raw due to a kick by Seth Rollins. He connected, for sure. Blood went all over, and WWE, being a PG-13 company, a PG-friendly, really, didn't want that real blood spilling all over on live TV, but that's what happened. So Cena will be out of action right now. He has 3 weeks to recover, really, and with a broken nose, they're saying he's going to be a game-time decision. I mean, that's their top, really, face of the company. For their second biggest show of the year, I would be surprised if he didn't make some kind of appearance or even was in a match, maybe a tag team match is something they would go with. And this is where it brings me to Sting, because Sting doesn't have a match, but to team him up with Cena to face maybe a Seth Rollins and someone like a Kane would be a really good match to kind of save Cena from taking the punches and the hits, and including Sting, and having a dream tag team match that we've never seen. So that might be something to do, and WWE, if you're listening right now, you're welcome for that idea. But we should definitely see what happens. I mean, it's still building right now as we speak, and the card will be set probably in the next week or so. And a lot of it depends on Cena, too, what they do as the second main event, because we know Brock and Undertaker set, but the second one is still to be determined. So that's a wrestling talk, and I figured since I'm flying solo, I have two podcasts on Southgate Media Group, and the other podcast, it's probably women-friendly, it's on The Bachelor. So I do a podcast on The Bachelor called The Bachelor Universe, and I talk about the show, The Bachelor, which just concluded this past Monday. And yeah, I'm not the guy you would expect doing this Bachelor thing, but I am. It's real. It's damn real. So the Bachelor finale concluded. It was down to Nick and Sean. And Nick was his second time in 2 consecutive seasons that this guy ended up in a finale of a show. He hoodwinked and bamboozled his way onto this season this year. And I don't know what kind of forces he has versus the producers. He must have some dirty pictures of the producers, I'm telling you, to get on the show 2 years in a row. But he got on, and he made it all the way to the final. And versus Sean, who everyone calls the Calvin Harris Ryan Gosling mix. I call him Sean Schnozling because he's basically Ryan Gosling with a big nose. And Nick's nickname in my podcast, if you heard it, I refer to him as the other guy. That's what Sean calls him on this show, is the other guy. He doesn't even refer to him by name because the hatred between these two guys is legitimate. I mean, they probably hate each other more than any wrestling feud on TV right now. Like, the wrestling feuds are fake, in a sense, where they kind of make it up between Undertaker and Brock. They're probably friends because Undertaker used to go to his UFC shows, but Schnozling and the other guy hate. Legitimate, like, this is a real feud we could have thrown in for SummerSlam. Those two guys hated each other. They almost came to blows on the last episodes, and it was down to them in the final. And the reason why Schnozling was he had so much venom for the other guy was because she kind of had an overnight with the other guy, and she took it too far, if you know what I mean. It was a long overnight. And Schnozling was not having it. So that's where the feud came in, and Nick is just a slime ball. I mean, you talk about like a weasel, a definition of a weasel in a slime bag. It's him. I mean, he's just one of those guys in high school that was like really probably hated because he would play the sides, I'm guessing, and try to be everyone's friend, and just as soon as they turn around, he would probably talk about you. He's that kind of a guy. Never grew up with it. So came down to the finale, and he was left at the altar again. So the other guy is a two-time Bachelor loser, which is a record that probably won't be duplicated again. Schnozling got picked, and he is the official boyfriend that probably will last for hopefully 5 months with Caitlin, because the Bachelor romance is like a 5-month window. If you're with someone past 5 months, then it's actually probably real, and we can't have that. Oh, I'm back on. Awesome. So we will see what happens with that romance. He seems legitimately into her, but you never know with that. As far as the other guy, what happens to the other guy now? I'm curious. He's from Chicago. He's probably walking the streets somewhere around here. I mean, he's probably creeping on any single female from 25 to 32, probably. There's no doubt about it. I mean, if he can get on a reality show twice to stalk 2 different women, there's no doubt that if you're a woman in Chicago, you should probably keep your eyes open for Nick Vale out there, because that guy is on the loose and coming for you. So stay away from the bars. I heard he's really prominent in those spots. But yeah, he's a 2-time loser now. Clearly, there's something wrong with him. If no girl, they take him all along the way to the final, and then just drop him like a bad habit right at the end. So kind of feel bad for the guy. I mean, as douchey as he is, you kind of feel like, maybe he does deserve someone eventually. Maybe someone as creepy as him. So there's hope for you, Nick, if you're out there. Maybe not on a Bachelorette. I mean, if you come on the 3rd season, yeah, who am I kidding? I'll see you next season on a Bachelorette. You'll be there. But yeah, so she picked him. She picked Schnozling. We'll see what happens. The Bachelor community was happy with that choice because everyone, the whole world, including me, really kind of dislike Nick. And if I haven't made it clear yet, I mean. But now the Bachelor's not over. No. We have Bachelor in Paradise coming up starting this Sunday. This show never ends. It just never ends. It goes on from one show to the other to the other. There's always someone looking for love or just a crazy time. So this time they're shipping him off to somewhere in some island in Mexico, I think, which is probably where they should keep him for forever. Because you don't want these people loose on the streets. But yeah, you have the majority of this season's cast is compromised from this season's Bachelorette and last season's Bachelor. So we have the rejects, in a sense, from both of those seasons coming back on. Then you have Claire, who has been known to talk to herself a lot and cry and have like an animal always pop out of the woods. And yeah, she's just bizarre in a way. And in a sense, she's like the Nick Vale of women out there. So maybe Nick should go on Bachelor in Paradise in that case. But yeah, you have the cast. From the promos we've seen, it is going to be intense and crazy. And if you thought The Bachelor or Bachelorette were crazy, this show amps it up a notch. Because what do you do when you throw in a bunch of unstable, single, and desperate people on an island? I mean, really. And the premise of this show is that they need to find one person and try to stay with them for the remainder of the show. If not, they get voted off and leave the island. You throw in a bunch of singles from both sides, you think you're going to stay with one person for like a month? Come on. I mean, who are they trying to kid? That's not going to happen. So expect people to be changing up every week because people are just not going to find the right person. They're going to be eliminated every week, and they're going to bring in new people. I'm curious to see JJ, who had a romance, fabricated romance. You see, these scripts are actually better than WWE's. I mean, the way they set up these shows, so they had like a whole gay bachelor thing going on this season, which wasn't true. They had these two guys, Clint and JJ, have a romance apparently together. They were very fond of each other. JJ calls them intellectually, there's an attraction intellectually, whatever that means. But that wasn't true because they have kids. JJ has kids and he's divorced, so how could have that been true? But JJ's coming to Bachelor in Paradise. Then you have Ashley S., who confused pomegranates for onions. And then she started growing onions on her own, apparently. And she's a hairstylist. I mean, you would not want to get your hair done by her. Can't come out good. But she's going to be on the island. So imagine JJ and her already. I see a pairing right there. And if WWE's watching, you should just watch The Bachelor and see the storylines that they build, because it's top-notch stuff. I mean, talk about looking for love. No, you're looking for insanity, and that insanity is just ramped up full notch in Paradise. Of course, the promo showed an ambulance once again. 2 seasons in a row, they have an ambulance and someone being escorted from the island on an ambulance, crying. I mean, I'm guessing it's a panic attack, or maybe couldn't choose which guy she wanted to be with for the night and kind of drove him crazy to insanity. So there's going to be an ambulance. There's going to be crying, of course, because that is legitimately written in your contract. You must cry if you're on one of these shows. So there's going to be crying. There's got to be cheating and backstabbing, because then it just wouldn't be entertaining. And the fun thing about it is, we get Bachelorette on every Monday night for 2 hours, but no, for Bachelor in Paradise, we're getting back-to-back 2 nights for the remainder of the show. We get a Sunday night and a Monday night. So if you're still recovering from a Sunday night, you better recover quick, because Monday night's coming around really quick. And that's 4 hours of Bachelor stuff in 2 consecutive nights. I mean, the country's going to be exhausted probably by week 3 of this. So yeah, who's saying after 20-some seasons of this show's going off course? Definitely not, if they're putting up 4 hours of material back-to-back nights. So there's going to be a lot of women out there watching. There's going to be me watching. I'm going to be tweeting the whole community about it. This is what I do. Actually, my life is so intriguing right now. Besides I should be on The Bachelor, because clearly I am meant for that show. So my application's somewhere in the mail. Hopefully it's not being tossed away. But I do live tweeting of the show. So when it's going on, I do East Coast and then West Coast. And I'm there for like 3 hours tweeting the whole community. If I had as much success with women in the real world as I do tweeting with them around the country, I would be like the happiest guy ever. But apparently that's my strong suit, is tweeting the country and the single females and married ones. Hey, I'm not their husband. Their husband should keep them, away from the internet. But that's what happens. So that will close out this podcast. I did a duo wrestling Bachelor one, so make sure you guys tune into Southgate Media and check out my podcast called The Wrestling Authority, which now will be a solo show since I am officially firing my co-host right here on the air. So that's going to be interesting, but I can carry a show, so that's not a problem. Yeah, well, I do have a vacancy. Anyone here, anyone around the world, feel free to reach out to me. There's an open spot for the Wrestling Authority. If you know anything about wrestling, you want to talk about the craziness that goes on, make sure to contact me. Bachelor fans out there, you can catch it, Bachelor Universe podcast through Southgate Media also. And also I have a blog. It's on Chicago Now. It's called Bachelor Universe. So just go onto Google, type in Bachelor Universe, and you will find me. And follow me on Twitter at JimRKO. So Twitter at JimRKO. It's not my last name. It's just a wrestling handle I stole, in a sense. So don't sue me. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for joining us. I am thankful to be here at the Blue Box Cafe for the great cause, for this charity for Ben. So everyone support it, everyone donate, because it's a really good cause, and I'm glad that we can do something like this out here and that I'm part of it. And see you later, everyone. I'm out. Next podcast coming up, so guys, don't go anywhere. Grab something to drink, eat, go to the bathroom, and come back. I'm out.